Can I stay just for tonight? The day after my son's funeral, late at night, my 6-year-old grandson, covered in bruises, came to my house. "Where's your mom?" While I was shocked, I tried to stay calm and asked him. Then, my grandson started to shed big tears. "She's sleeping at home with another man." My daughter-in-law, who didn't attend her own husband's funeral, was now with another man. What could she possibly be thinking? And these bruises all over my grandson. I thought, perhaps that woman has done something terrible. I decided to take drastic measures against my despicable daughter-in-law, to make sure she couldn't harm anyone again. If only I had opposed my son's marriage 7 years ago. Perhaps none of us would have had to suffer this sadness. After retiring, I lived a peaceful life with my husband, tending the garden and taking walks for exercise. My only son, Robert, was already married to Angela, and they lived with their son Harry in the next town over. It was 7 years ago when Robert brought Angela home. "I'm thinking of marrying her." "Nice to meet you, I'm Angela." "Pleasure to meet you." Though she was 5 years younger than Robert and seemed a bit flashy, she was charming and confident in her responses. However, Angela's overly bright and fixed smile unnerved me instead. Robert, being quiet and reserved, seemed unlikely to have a girlfriend, let alone get married. So when she was introduced as his fiancée, I was honestly filled with surprise and disbelief. "Are you sure she's the right one?" Worried, I caught my son after Angela had left. "What do you mean? She seems quite different from you." "Angela lost her parents early and has had a tough life. She's actually a very strong woman with a solid core. I need someone who can take the lead like her." Seeing Robert's face soften and look so content when he talked about her made me decide to trust the person he had chosen. And what do you know? Soon after getting married, Angela got pregnant and gave birth to a healthy boy. Robert seemed truly happy, and I felt relieved, thinking their marriage wasn't a mistake after all. And then I found my role as a grandmother. "Angela and I want to go out together. Could you take care of Harry for us?" "Of course. Make sure to take good care of your wife. She's always working hard with the childcare and the housework." "I know." Robert and Angela occasionally left their son with us and went out together. It seemed like their marriage was going well, and I was happy to have this time with my dear grandson Harry. But shadows began to creep into our everyday life. It was around when Harry was about 5 years old. Returning from a trip with friends, I passed by my son's house and decided to drop off some souvenirs. I planned to leave right away and hadn't informed anyone of my visit. "Harry, don't mess around. If you can't listen, get out." "Wha?" "I'm sorry. Mama, please forgive me." As I stood in front of Robert's home, I heard my daughter-in-law's shouts and Harry's cries of distress. Wondering what was going on, I rang the doorbell. "Angela, it's me." After a while, the door slowly opened and my daughter-in-law peeked out. "Mother-in-law, what brings you here so suddenly? If you're looking for Robert, he's still at work." Angela frowned as soon as she saw me, her face showing annoyance. She spoke in a low, barely audible tone, as if conversing was a hassle for her. "I came to drop off some souvenirs from my trip." But then I heard loud voices and wondered what was going on. "Oh." Harry tried to jump down the stairs, so I was just scolding him for being reckless. "Really? Is Harry okay, then?" "He's fine, and I'd appreciate it if you didn't interfere too much, okay?" With that strong response, she abruptly closed the door. I was taken aback as Angela had never behaved like this before. But soon, I reflected that it might not have been good to visit without contacting them first. Besides, Angela was a first-time mother. I understand her feelings as both she and I have walked the path of motherhood. I thought, perhaps she's under a lot of stress from childcare, and worried not only about Angela but also about my grandson. I decided to discuss this with my son. Was Angela upset? I called Robert that very night. What do you mean? She seemed fine to me. That's good then. My son reassured me, but I couldn't be sure what Angela truly felt inside. So, from then on, I made sure to always contact them before visiting. However, since that day, almost every time I visited, Angela seemed to be out. Angela hasn't been around much lately. Has she started some new classes or something? I wondered if Angela might be avoiding me, so I subtly inquired about her behavior. No, it's just that she's often not at home on her days off. And I end up taking care of Harry a lot. Robert didn't seem particularly concerned about Angela's absence. He appeared to enjoy the time with his child, so I thought it wasn't my place to comment further. A year passed, and Harry turned 6. I couldn't make it on his actual birthday, so we planned to celebrate on another day. I wanted to give him something he really wanted, so I called my son. What would Harry like for his birthday this year? I have an overnight work commitment today, so I'll ask him when I get back and let you know. Robert had been busy lately, traveling around the country on business trips and occasionally leaving home for a few days. I thought, I hope he doesn't overwork himself, with his important family waiting at home. I planned to tell him not to push himself too hard the next time I saw him. However, that phone call turned out to be our last conversation. The next day, I received a call from Angela saying that Robert had been involved in a hit-and-run accident and had passed away. I thought, that can't be, we just talked yesterday and he was fine. I was so shocked I couldn't speak and ended the call abruptly. However, I needed to discuss the funeral arrangements, so I called Angela back. Angela, I'm sorry I was so out of it earlier. Whatever. So, what are the plans for Robert's funeral? You can do whatever you like. The call ended abruptly after that response. I was surprised by her words, but thinking that she must be even more shocked than I was, I decided to take the lead in organizing the funeral. Can I stay just for tonight? Standing at the door, my grandson looked up at me with a face about to cry, trembling. Where's your mom? She's sleeping at home with a man. He told me not to come back until tomorrow night. It turned out Harry had walked all the way from his home in the neighboring town. As he spoke, big tears rolled down his cheeks. I held him close. Even after my son's recent passing, the fact that Angela was with another man and seemingly neglecting Harry filled me with both sadness and anger. Another concern was the bruises covering Harry. Upon examining Harry, I saw numerous wounds, both old and new, which were distressing to behold. How did you get these injuries? I can't say. Despite my questions, my grandson remained silent, unwilling or perhaps unable to talk about the source of his injuries. It raised my suspicion that Angela might have been treating Harry harshly. I invited Harry inside and decided to make him some hot milk to help him feel more at ease. Grandma, what's wrong? Are you sleepy? No, it's not that. When Dad went to the other world, did we get a lot of money? What? Who told you that? A child as young as 6 shouldn't know about such things. It must have been mentioned by an adult. Mom was talking about it with a man. Hearing this, a suspicion formed in my mind. The police were still investigating my son's hit-and-run accident, and no suspect had been apprehended yet. Given Angela's recent behavior and Harry's remarks, I wondered if she might be involved in some way. Unable to sit still, I woke up my husband and explained the situation. I asked him to put Harry to bed while I went to confront Angela. who was apparently living comfortably with another man. When I arrived at Angela's house, I saw an unfamiliar car parked outside. Angela didn't have a driver's license, so it likely belonged to the man she was with. I thought, could this be? I noted the car's license plate and checked for any unusual marks on the vehicle. I found a dent in the front that looked like it had hit something. As I was taking a photo of the dent, despite it being late at night, someone approached and spoke to me. From what they said, I became convinced that the owner of this car was involved in Robert's hit and run. The next morning, I took Harry to the hospital and asked my husband to go to an important place that might help us further. In the evening, after leaving Harry with a relative, my husband and I went to my son's house together to confront the situation and seek answers. I thought, the car I saw yesterday is still here. That means the man is likely still inside. Determined to confront Angela, I trembled as I pressed the doorbell. But there was no immediate answer. Angela, I know you're there. I need to talk about Robert's life insurance, please come out. Of course, that wasn't what I truly wanted to discuss. However, I thought mentioning money might prompt her to respond. Sure enough, after a while, Angela appeared. What about life insurance? We can't talk here at the door. Can you let me in? Can we just talk here instead? She stubbornly refused to move from the door, not letting me inside. Is there a reason I shouldn't come in? Angela fell silent at my question. That's when my husband and I decided to push past her and enter the house. We began searching the rooms for the man. Hey. What are you doing? I'm going to call the police. She tried desperately to block our way. Oh, who is this man? Upon opening the bedroom door, we found the man we were looking for asleep in the bed. It doesn't matter who he is. It does matter. You didn't attend Robert's funeral because of this man, didn't you? No, that's not it. He's a friend of mine who's traveling around Japan. He just got here and I let him sleep because he's tired. Please don't disturb him. Her excuse seemed far-fetched, to say the least. Yet, Angela looked at us as if we were the villains, her face full of anger. Don't lie. Harry came to our house in the middle of the night, crying that his mom was sleeping with a man and he couldn't stay at home. Children don't always tell the truth, you know. So, he's your lover, right? You've been leaving Robert to take care of Harry frequently because you were meeting this man. Weren't you? If I get accused of cheating just because I take some time for myself, then I can't even breathe. Angela sought agreement from her companion, and eventually, the two of them started snickering and mocking me. Enjoy it while it lasts. I signaled to my husband to discreetly start recording the conversation. And then I got to the heart of the matter. The man who hit and ran over Robert is your lover here. Upon hearing this, Angela briefly twitched her eyebrows but soon started chuckling and shaking with laughter. Huh? Emma, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
Grandma. You're crazy to accuse someone without evidence. Angela and her companion maintained a dismissive attitude, laughing off my accusations. I wouldn't say such a thing without evidence. There's a big dent in the front of the car parked in front of the house, isn't there? Just because there's a dent, doesn't mean I'm the culprit. It was just a minor bump. And that bump didn't happen on the day my son had his accident? It was way before that. The man aggressively defended himself, unchanging in expression, while Angela watched on. But there's someone who saw you calling a repair shop to get an estimate on the day Robert died. Indeed, when I had visited their house late at night, I had been approached by a young man returning from a convenience store who lived nearby. He was a car enthusiast and had been interested in the same model of car that Angela's companion drove. He mentioned that he had been looking at the car every time it was parked in front of the house because he was curious about it. It appears that the lover was seen talking to a specialist on the day of the accident. Angela also seemed to be urging the repair to be done quickly. I don't remember that. It's ridiculous to believe just what a neighbor says. Well, you requested to fix a dent in the bumper, right? Oh, but it was declined, so the car is still here, isn't it? In fact, a local man remembered the name of the repair shop written on the car. And I had my husband go there to find out more. The lover had claimed the dent was caused by a cat running into the car. However, the professional repair service found this explanation dubious and therefore refused the job, as my husband found out. So, what's going on here? Ugh. Actually, I just got a call saying there was a sighting of the hit-and-run vehicle. In reality, no such call had come. I was bluffing to elicit a confession from them. The vehicle is a minivan, and the number is... Oh. Isn't it the same as the car parked in front of the house? That must be some mistake. The man argued back, but his confidence seemed to have vanished. It appears that both Angela and he are slowly being cornered. I thought, just a little more. I'll definitely get a confession out of them. I decided to move on to the next strategy. It would be so sad for Harry to lose his father and then his mother gets arrested. I sniffed and covered my face with my hand, pretending to cry. But, overcome with real emotion, I began to sob. Seeing this, Angela's face darkened with thought, perhaps pained by my display. Actually, I had him take the car to pick up Robert. Hey. What are you saying? It's okay. Just let me talk. Angela gently patted her lover's shoulder to calm him. And he seemed to understand something because he quietly backed down. Then, suddenly, my husband jumped in front of the car, and we couldn't avoid him. Right, Jason?
Yeah.
That's right. His agreement seemed forced, and he was visibly uncomfortable. However, Angela, seemingly unconcerned by his discomfort, continued her story. We were scared and ran away. The guilt was too much, and we couldn't bear it. That's why we couldn't even attend the funeral and just stayed at home. Whether her story was true or a lie was unclear. Angela seemed to show no genuine remorse, possibly attempting to elicit sympathy to evade her responsibility. Even if that story is true, calling an ambulance right away might have saved Robert, don't you think? That's why we were scared. Harry asked if he would get a lot of money if his dad died. Are you telling me you didn't plan this, hoping to get rid of Robert for the insurance money? When I confronted her, cutting off her story, Angela fell silent. There was still something crucial I needed to pursue with her. Angela, weren't you not only a burden to Robert but also treating your own child horribly? He was covered in bruises. I don't know. He falls down a lot. Then how do you explain this? I thrust a piece of paper under her nose. I had taken Harry to the hospital in the morning and obtained a medical report. It documented that the bruises were consistent with being struck by a significant force. The doctor suggested that Harry's injuries might have been caused by an adult male's force. What do you have to say about that? Hearing this, her lover turned his face away, his demeanor confirming my suspicions. It was evident that he had been the one physically harming my grandson. As I stared at Angela, it became clear that her earlier claim that Harry was at fault for his injuries was an attempt to cover for her lover's actions. Angela, can't you even protect your own child? That's despicable. But whenever he comes around, that kid starts whining and crying. It's so annoying. Her true nature revealed. Angela's response confirmed that her lover had been harming Harry and she had chosen to ignore it. I thought, Harry, you've been so brave. Leave the rest to me. Seeing his mother involved with another man must have been incredibly painful for Harry. And thinking about my son Robert, who left behind his young child and ascended to heaven, ignited a flame of anger within me. You both will taste despair. What can an old woman like you do? The room fell silent after her shout, with only the ticking of the clock audible. Then, Angela and her lover laughed scornfully, seemingly unconcerned. However, taking a deep breath, I launched my final strike, changing the atmosphere completely. By the way, it seems like you're being discussed all over social media. What? Why? Flustered, Angela pulled out her smartphone and started searching for something. A friend of my son, who was puzzled why you didn't attend the funeral, contacted me. In fact, I had shared what I knew with him. He said, something fishy is going on with the wife, and began digging deeper, uncovering various aspects of Angela's and her lover's irresponsible pasts and debts. Then, he involved other friends to spread this information. Hey. You can't just go around looking into people's private lives like that. Seeing her own image on her smartphone screen, Angela exploded in anger, and then suddenly her eyes widened in shock. Wait, why is there a photo of me? I had received a call from my son's friend, informing me that Angela's face was circulating online. He hadn't intended for it to go that far, but somehow, her photo had been posted. Moreover, the most recent share included a photo of Angela with a grim expression near the accident site. It seemed the situation had spiraled out of control. This is all your fault for saying unnecessary things. What are you going to do about this? Fix it. The internet is powerful, isn't it? But, you're the one who did something bad enough to get slammed, right? As I cornered the defensive Angela, she began to sweat profusely. I'm going to tell the police everything we've learned today. This will surely lead them to investigate you and Robert further, and everything will be uncovered. Please, spare me that. Sobbing, Angela's mascara ran, making her look a mess. Her lover repeatedly bowed his head in submission. I have no intention of forgiving you just because of this. Suddenly, Angela and her lover looked at each other, and she nodded subtly. Then we'll shut you up right here. In a shocking turn, Angela and her lover lunged at my husband and me. However, at that exact moment, the doorbell rang, and a voice from outside announced, "Police here." What? Why? Before entering the house, I had reported a suspicious car parked outside. Help, please. Taking advantage of their distraction, my husband and I ran to the door and were taken into police protection. Once inside, I relayed the entire story to the investigators, and even played the recordings my husband had made. This ensured that the authorities were fully informed, laying the groundwork for a thorough investigation into Angela and her lover's actions, and providing a critical turning point in the case. The police acted swiftly, detaining both Angela and her lover almost immediately. This is a mistake. I didn't do anything. Despite their resistance, they were forcibly taken away. Subsequent investigations provided evidence, leading to the arrest of Angela's lover for the hit and run that killed my son and for assaulting Harry. The court proceedings are ongoing, and while the final sentences are yet to be determined, we hope for the strictest penalties due to the gravity of their actions. Although Angela did not physically harm anyone herself, she was implicated for conspiring in the actions and might face charges accordingly. Her parental rights were also revoked due to her neglect in addressing the abuse Harry endured. Moreover, Angela faced social sanctions amplified through social media, leaving her without any support network. Harry was placed in our care. Living with us, Harry has gradually begun to recover and regain his spirit. We are committed to prioritizing his happiness and well-being as we move forward. ensuring he grows up in a loving and secure environment.